Today we're going to be talking about the Lumma Menstrual Disc, how to use it, how to insert it, how to remove it, and my personal experience with one of my new favorite products. Hi everybody, my name is Kim Rosas and I am the educator and founder here at Period Nirvana, and I also started the retail store in the US called Period.Shop where we sell reusable menstrual products. So if you're looking for something special for your vagina, make sure you check that out. And today I'm going to be talking all about the Lumma Menstrual Disc. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Lumma is a brand from Brazil, and it's one that I've been using and trying for several years. So this isn't going to be a review because I've actually reviewed it when I was at Put a Cup in It already. But I wanted to update because not only have they done new branding, which is much better than the old branding, they've updated their packaging to include a breathable pouch, whereas before it had a silicone, almost coin purse thing. The other exciting news is that they're FDA registered, so you can safely purchase and feel good about the product, safety if you're using it. And the other exciting news is that you can also now buy it in a single from Period.Shop instead of doing the BOGO that Lumma always has, and get it shipped faster. So I'm doing a little self-plug there that you can purchase and know that it's coming quickly from a trusted store like Period.Shop. Lumma's come in 3 sizes, and with their rebrand, they also changed how they reference their sizes. So Lumma's largest diameter is called Lumma High, and that is a 68 millimeter diameter product, and it can hold 60 milliliters, which is quite a lot. Keep in mind that with it squishing in your body, the capacity is probably going to be a little less than that. Lumma Medium, which is the same name as before, same sizing, that comes in at 63 millimeters in diameter. It's also completely round, and this holds 55 milliliters in the capacity. And then the smallest is called a Lumma Short. This is a 53 millimeter diameter, completely round, and it holds 30 milliliters. So the smallest holds as much as most size 2 or size large menstrual cups in capacity, but again, we are thinking that with some of the squishing that this product does inside of you, chances are it's losing some of the capacity. What is interesting is that they all sort of nest together. So if you were to put the high and then the medium and then the short, they all completely nest inside one another. So the way that Lumma sizes their discs is different than how most products size anything. They go completely by cervix height. So this isn't about capacity. It isn't about having given birth or having not given birth or over 30 or under 30, the way that traditional menstrual cups size their products. The way that Lumma does it is by cervix height. So when you are considering purchasing a Lumma, it is important to know your cervix height, and you can go to the guide on Period Nirvana, and I will put a card up and a link in the description on how to measure your cervix. Now, my interpretation of their sizing is a little bit different than the way they do it. So, use your best judgment. You can follow my advice or you can follow their advice. On the Period Nirvana cervix measurement guide, I would say if you are a Period Nirvana low cervix, then go with the short Lumma. Medium, I would say if you are low to average in a cervix height, go with the medium Lumma. I would say if you are on the Period Nirvana guide between an average and a high cervix, go with the Lumma High. With the stem, you should be able to still reach the Lumma disc if you have a high cervix, which is different than other discs because if you don't have the stem and you have a disc in place, it might be hard to reach the rim to pull and remove your menstrual disc. What I have found using Lumma is that I don't really like the stem. I thought it was a nice idea, and I still think it's a nice idea, especially if you have a high cervix, but I removed my stem, and you can't really see where I removed it anymore, but I've kind of filed it down to make sure it wasn't going to be abrasive for me. You can still shorten the length of the stem. You don't have to cut the whole thing off. You can trim it down. The stem was too long for me. It was basically hanging out like a tampon string, so I did completely remove it just because it's kind of on the edge. But if you're comfortable with it, you can still cut it down. One of the other things that I tried with the size medium is I inserted it, instead of doing it this way, I inserted it with this to the side and then had it come down. so that it wasn't as long, so I could keep the stem and try it. And I could still feel the stem, so it did not work for me, but I know some other people have said that that's a good way to keep the length of the stem if you want it, but not have it hanging out of you and being too long. So I thought that was a tip worth sharing. I've been a huge fan of the Lumma and Menstrual discs for a couple of years, and I tried the Lumma, the large, and have had like amazing success with it. It's one of the products that I reach for most if I'm not reviewing products, which is basically never. But if I'm just having a day where I am frustrated, I'm tired of testing something, it's leaking, and I just want something that I know will work, I always reach for my Lumma large. In fact, this is my Lumma large that I use, and I did recently do a cleaning video where I destained it. A quick guide to putting in your menstrual disc. You fold it in long ways, and sometimes this is sort of a two-hand operation because it might, if you're putting it in, start opening here. So you can start by putting it in with one hand and then release and then keep pushing up. This is my model Virginia that I have sort of repainted and recast. And then when you put it in, you just slide between the lips and gently guide it upwards. And then once you have most of it in, you can use your two thumb and pointer finger to continue pushing up. You want it to go behind the cervix, and then when it's up as high as that will go, you push the front edge up, and that goes against the pubic bone. And the menstrual disc stays in place not because of your pelvic floor muscles or your pelvic floor tonus. It stays in place by essentially propping against the bone. And that is why menstrual discs are sized differently for most people, partly because they're not held in place by your muscles, and partly because this tented area underneath the cervix, which is called the vaginal fornix, that area is a mostly one-size-fits-all kind of area. You can wear a menstrual disc as long as you wear a menstrual cup. You can wear them up to 12 hours at a time. When it's time to remove the Lumma disc, you'll remove it one of two ways. Of course, if you remove it with a string and you keep your string on, you will just start by slowly and carefully pulling this string. It's quite thin, so be gentle with it because it could break. And then once it gets to a certain point, you will grab it and guide it the rest of the way out, trying to keep it up and level because it does come out in a messy way for most people. I find discs to be quite messier than menstrual cups. Typically I have blood on the bottom. I have blood that's around it. It's just bloody. I don't mind it, but just to give you fair warning that it is going to be a messier thing. So you want to be over a toilet and you want to be sort of mentally and frankly ready for what mess is going to come. So it is easier if you do buy the string. You can even pull it enough that some of it kind of empties, which helps with the messiness, and then remove. If your product does not have a string on it, you'll need to do a few things. One is you'll need to try to hook the rim and pull down, which for me doesn't always work. In the model, it actually works a little bit easier. And then you get it to where you can reach it, pinch it, and pull it down. Or you can simply reach in and grab the rim with 2 fingers and then gently pull that down, again, wanting to keep this up as much as you can, and then empty the contents over the toilet. You can do all of these things in the shower. In fact, I'd recommend, if you are new to menstrual discs, to trying removing in the shower for your first time when you're on your period, because that is more of an open splash zone and will probably be a more stress-free experience for you because you might be worried about the mess. There is something that happens with menstrual discs that I will mention that could make removal less messy and could make the product more appealing to you, and that is called auto dumping. And what auto dumping is that when you are on a toilet and your menstrual disc is in place, when the combination of sitting and the pressure that you're either, slightly pushing to urinate. I think most of us slightly push out the urine. We don't just let it slowly trickle out. So there is some muscle action happening when you urinate, and of course even more when you have a bowel movement. So that can tip the disc down enough where some of the contents empty in the toilet. And for people who don't know what this is, they tend to think that their product is failing and leaking when this happens to them. But as long as between bathroom visits, if you don't have blood in your underwear and you're not leaking, everything is working just fine. You'll just see a lot of blood in the toilet. But if you have a heavier period, this means you could probably go longer with your disc than you would. And of course, discs hold a lot. But if you're using one of the smaller Lumma discs that hold less, like the small, which is 30, and you have a heavy flow and a low cervix, this could really help you get through your period without having to empty the disc more frequently. And again, auto dumping is not a guarantee. It tends to happen when the disc is either a little bit too big or a little bit too small. It's not a design feature, it's more of a bug. But it's something I appreciate about discs, and a lot of other people do as well. I have a whole video on auto dumping as well, and I'll link that in the video description. One thing about discs that is something you might want to consider watching this if you're normally a cup person or trying to decide is that discs, Lumma or any disc, they don't have that suction. So if you have an IUD in place, while you can still safely wear cups with an IUD when you break the seal and you're very careful about removal, there is a lot of peace of mind, and I think I would feel the same if I had an IUD if there is no suction, so you don't have to necessarily worry so much about that. Discs are a little bit easier to drop when you remove because they are usually covered in blood a little bit more. So I would definitely recommend making it a practice to pinch well when you remove these. Some of the things that make menstrual discs different, and in some ways better, and in some ways not as good for someone than a menstrual cup. It is a flat fit. So when it's in your body, your vaginal canal is now open, which means that if you have a lower cervix with a menstrual disc, you don't have to worry about the bottom, the base, the stem, any of those things rubbing or touching or being uncomfortable for you. And of course, this also opens up the prospect for those of you who are interested in having penetrative intercourse, which you cannot do with a menstrual cup. So when a menstrual disc is in place, let's put it the way I would have it inside, not only do you have the space, but this disc part is very soft and malleable, and that goes for all of the sizes. Let's talk a little bit about the competition, because there are not that many discs, but there are some, and there are differences in them. The Lumma Large, which is 68 millimeters wide, is about the same, close to the Nixit in diameter, which is 70. Now, the Nixit is a completely different kind of product in the way it feels. It's a much nicer product, frankly, and I do like Lumma, but in terms of the manufacturing niceness and the material niceness, Nixit is like miles above. It's super soft. It's just a really well-made product, and it has this double rim, and it's very flexible. So some people want a more flexible rim disc. This one, the Lumma, is more firm. Lumma's, if you have tried a disposable disc like the Flex, is the closest, size large, is the closest in firmness and size to the Flex or the Instead cup or the Instead disc. And so those, if you've tried one and liked it, this would be your closest product, because this is quite soft. But they are both very round, and they hold similar amounts. The other product is the Ziggy by Intimina, which was the first reusable disc on the market. And as much as I want to love this product, it's not a good fit for me. It's oval, and it has sort of a directional insertion. The Ziggy is the widest disc. It's 76 millimeters that we have in the US right now. There is another brand, and I'm reviewing it now, so don't ask me too many questions because I've only tried it a little bit. It's called, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, Moonthlies. It's spelled Moonthlies, like monthlies, but with an extra O. So I'm going to say monthlies because I feel more comfortable saying that. And it's a 2-size product. The larger is 72.5 millimeters in the longest, widest part. And then this one is 62. And this one is very thick in the rim. They're both very, very thick, and they kind of have like sharp edges around the edge. I'll just give you a quick little thing since we're talking about it. This one was not comfortable for me, the large, because of the thick rim. It has this stuff on the side that was very, very uncomfortable. The small was actually very comfortable, and I didn't feel the stuff on the outside, and I could not tell that this was a very thick rim. And it has a certain kind of design where it has a ledge that's supposed to help you reach it and remove it, but that didn't work for me. So I do like the small one from a comfort perspective, but I wouldn't pick it so far over any of the other ones. A few downsides about Lumma: they do have this flashing on, what they call flashing from the injection molding, on the stem. So I don't care because I remove it, but if you are keeping it, that might be uncomfortable. But again, there really aren't any other products that are like that, so there aren't things you can choose otherwise. And the tackiness is not my favorite as a material, from a not my favorite, but my vagina doesn't care. So it's one of those things, like, when I consider picking up a product, does it meet a need? Is it an amazing company? Is it doing amazing things ethically, charity-wise? Are they just like doing awesome things? This company makes a product that meets a very needed need. We need more disc sizes, and people are, not all the same size. Most people fit into the larger disc size, but not everybody. So it's nice to have this 3 size option from Lumma. And of course, it's really nice to have something to grab onto for those with a high cervix to help guide it out. Now, a little bit about my experience, because if you haven't seen the other video, you can just stick around and I'll give you a little backstory of why I love discs and why I have mostly been drawn to Lumma as a product. And, as much as I like high quality, really nice things, my vagina has no preference. So it really likes the Lumma. And it really can't tell. I used to hate discs, and I tried the Flex disposable disc. It was not something I had a good experience with. It leaked quite a lot. It wasn't super comfortable because it has that very rigid, hard rim. And so when I went to try some of the reusable discs like Ziggy, the Ziggy did not work super well for me, but it was better. And the Nixit and the Lumma have been the best for me so far, and now that small Moonthlies has also been pretty good. And so when I was reviewing the Lumma, I knew already that from the get-go, it was just working super well for me. And I was traveling in Europe at the time, so this was a long time ago, pre-COVID, and was reviewing it there. And it was perfect. It never rubbed. It never dropped down. Occasionally I'll have slippage with menstrual cups. So I knew I was going to be like running and walking literally all over. In fact, I did a crazy scavenger hunt when I was in Germany and was on my period for that, and was literally running through the city to try to win a contest to meet my idol, Billy Corgan. And I won that contest, and I got to meet him. And all the while, I was testing this Lumma disc, and it never failed. I wore it to the concert. I wore it while meeting him. Didn't have to worry about any embarrassing leaks or discomfort. And so it really has been like one of my, if not my very go-to product. So, the quality is not my favorite. They have done a great job with their rebranding, but it has just been like a very awesome product for me, and has shown me that discs are often, most of the time, a better fit for me. My body has changed a lot in the last few years. My periods have changed a lot. And so some of even my best cups have not worked as well for me. And I've actually found that my cervix is, some cups are now suctioning to my cervix that used to never do that. And they've been uncomfortable because when it happens, it's like a bolt of lightning in your body. It really is a stabbing cramp. So if you experience that, that might be a sign that you have a cup suctioning to your cervix. And you can get a wider diameter cup, or a cup that sits lower. So I've been switching to lower cervix cups when I wear cups, like the Hello Cup Low Cervix or the Cotton Mermaid Guppy, because those have actually worked better. The rim diameter is better, and they're not suctioning to my cervix. So even my favorite cups have sometimes failed in that way. And discs don't do that. So, this has been kind of a change for me, a sea change, where I am a disc convert, and I do tell people, hey, if you're having trouble with cups, try a disc. And that's the other reason that when I left to put a cup in it and started Period Nirvana, I really am focusing more on discs, because I find them to be, a really good option for people who struggle with cups, if you're willing to deal with the mess, which is very messy. But you know, it has a lot of benefits, and it's your blood, so it's something to get used to and not be squeamish about because it's not so bad. If you are looking at discs, any disc, not just Lumma, I would recommend taking the quiz on periodnirvana.com. It's something I worked really, really hard on because I wanted it to not only meet the needs of people looking for cups in all shapes and sizes, from teens to people with low cervix and heavy flow, but also people who might be interested in a disc. And so of the options available, I will give you the recommendation from me of which one is going to be a better option for you in that quiz that I designed. So definitely look at periodnirvana.com. It's the first thing on the page. You can take that quiz and find what cup or disc is best for you. And then we also have a lot of other resources on Period Nirvana, like the comparison chart, which includes discs and also includes the discs that are available outside of the US, some of the brands that I didn't talk about because you can't get them here, but that exist. So there are a few other brands. And if you need more help, you can find it in the Period Nirvana community. So join that group on Facebook. I'm there answering questions as well as the community at large. You can find me on Instagram at Period Nirvana. You can find me on TikTok doing little educational videos at Period Nirvana. And of course, make sure you subscribe right here for more updates on new content. That's everything for me on this intro/review. Hopefully it was helpful in deciding which is right for you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.